One of the biggest mistakes players make in this game is not understanding scaling. You might dominate early but suddenly fall off. Or you might be weak in the start and never even reach your late game potential. So, in this video, I'm going to explain what scaling really means, how to use it depending on your hero type, and the step-by-step process to reach your power spikes without falling behind. If you learn how to scale properly, you'll stop feeling useless in the mid-game and instead start carrying in the late game. First, let's know about scaling. So what is scaling? Scaling is simply how your hero grows stronger as the game goes on. Some heroes scale really well in the early game. They're strong right from the start, but get weaker later. Some heroes scale in the late game, which means they're weak at the beginning but become monsters once they get items. And some heroes are just average, decent in all stages. So when I say scaling, I mean your hero's power growth from early game to mid game and into the late game. Now that we know about scaling, so let me give you some tips regarding it. So tip number 1 is understand your hero's scaling. In this game, every hero has a different scaling pattern. Some heroes are designed to dominate early. They have strong skills, short cooldowns, and high base damage, which means they can bully lanes or secure early objectives. If you're using this type of hero, your goal is simple: fight early, create pressure, and snowball before the enemy late-game heroes come online. Other heroes, like marksmen or certain mages, don't start strong. They need items and levels to unlock their true power. If you're playing a late-game scaler, your main focus is survival and farming. Don't take unnecessary risks in the first 5 minutes, because your real strength only shows up once you hit your item spikes. Then, there are balanced heroes. They're not too strong early and not too weak late. With these heroes, you can play flexible, help your team when needed, but also farm enough to keep scaling steadily. The key idea here is knowing what kind of hero you're using. If you don't understand your scaling, you'll either fight too early when you're weak or play too passive when you should be aggressive. Once you recognize your hero's scaling pattern, every decision you make in the game becomes much easier. Now, step number 2 is minimize deaths early. In the early game, every death is more painful than it looks. When you die, you don't just give gold and XP to the enemy, you also lose precious farming time, lane pressure, and sometimes even objectives like turtle or towers. That's why minimizing deaths is one of the most important parts of scaling. If your hero is a late-game scaler, dying early delays your items and slows down your entire growth. One mistake can push back your power spike by 2 or 3 minutes, which is huge in a fast-paced match. That's why you should always ask yourself before fighting, is this worth the risk, or should I just play safe and wait? Even for early-game heroes, dying too much can completely kill your momentum. You're supposed to snowball, but if you hand over free kills, the enemy catches up faster and your advantage disappears. The best mindset is simple: protect your scaling. Take calculated trades, back off when you're low, and don't waste your life on fights that don't benefit your team. The less you die, the faster you hit your power spikes, and the stronger you'll be when the big fights come. Now, step number 3 is farm efficiently, of course. Scaling is always connected to gold and experience, and the fastest way to get both is farming. But farming isn't just about killing random creeps, it's about doing it efficiently. Every second you waste walking around without a plan is a second the enemy is getting stronger than you. The first thing you should focus on is clearing waves and jungle camps in the right order. Plan your route so you don't leave gaps of wasted time. For example, if you're in lane, push the wave before rotating. If you're in the jungle, chain your camps so you move smoothly from one to the next without backtracking. Another key point is timing. Farm during the safe windows. If you see the enemy jungler on the other side of the map, that's your chance to clear your camps or push a wave without much risk. But if enemies are missing from the map, don't greed for that extra camp. It could cost you your life and slow down your scaling. Remember, the goal isn't just to farm. It's to farm faster than the enemy. The quicker you reach your items and levels, the sooner you can hit your power spikes and control the game. Now, tip number 4 is item power spikes. One of the biggest parts of scaling is knowing exactly when your hero becomes strong, and that moment usually comes with items. These are called power spikes. They're the points in the game where your hero can suddenly fight much better because of a key item. For example, a marksman often feels weak with just basic equipment, but the moment they finish their first big damage item, their damage output jumps. A mage might need cooldown reduction or mana items before they can actually spam skills effectively. Even tanks have spikes, like when they complete their first defensive item and can finally stand in the front line without melting instantly. If you ignore your spikes, you'll either fight too early and lose, or wait too long and waste your window of strength. The smart way is to pay attention to your build. Once you complete an important item, look for a fight, secure an objective, or pressure the map. That's when your hero is meant to shine. Scaling isn't just about waiting until late game. It's about recognizing these smaller spikes along the way and using them at the right time. If you fight when your items are ready and the enemies aren't, that's where you get the lead that carries into the late game. Now, tip number 5 is team fight positioning. Once you start scaling and hitting your items, team fights become the real test. It doesn't matter how strong you are. If your positioning is bad, you'll never get to use your power. If you're a damage dealer like a marksman or mage, your job is to stay behind the front line. Let your tanks and fighters soak up the hits while you deal consistent damage from a safe distance. Standing too far forward means you'll get deleted instantly, and standing too far back means you're not contributing enough. The key is finding that sweet spot where you're safe but still effective. If you're a frontline hero, your positioning is different. You need to be where the enemy's damage dealers are looking. Peel for your backline, block skill shots, and make it difficult for assassins to dive your carries. Good positioning for a tank isn't about getting kills. It's about creating space so your scaling heroes can do their job. The point is simple. Positioning decides if your scaling pays off or not. A well-positioned carry can win a fight alone, while a badly positioned one can throw the entire game in seconds. Now, tip number 6 is patience and discipline. Scaling isn't only about farming and items, it's also about mindset. If you don't have patience, you'll throw away all the progress you've built. A late-game hero becomes dangerous only if they survive long enough to reach their items. That means you can't rush into every fight or chase every kill you see. Sometimes the smartest choice is to back off, wait for your cooldowns, or farm a little more instead of forcing a fight you're not ready for. The same goes for team fights. Discipline means knowing when to hold your ground and when to retreat. Just because you've scaled doesn't mean you're immortal. Even in late game, one reckless death can hand over objectives like Lord, towers, or even the entire match. Patience and discipline may sound boring, but they're the difference between a hero who peaks at the right time and one who never gets to use their full potential. If you stay calm and make the right choices, your scaling will always pay off. So to sum it all up, scaling in a game is about playing smart through every stage of the game. First, understand how your hero scales. Are you strong early, late, or balanced? Then, minimize deaths so you don't delay your growth. Farm as efficiently as possible, because gold and XP are what make you strong. Pay attention to your item power spikes and use them to fight at the right moments. When it's time for team fights, position properly so you can actually use your strength. And finally, have the patience and discipline to wait for your timing instead of rushing into bad fights. If you can follow these steps, scaling won't feel confusing anymore. You'll know exactly how to grow, when to fight, and how to carry your team to victory.